So here it is, the final one in this series of what will be 30 videos. These thumbnails, the black and the white versions, there's a couple of red ones in there for Ferrari, which I may or may not change at some point in time. But you got the black and the white versions, where you have the black version being the uninterrupted audio between the driver and his race engineer at Abu Dhabi 2021, and the white one being the analysis of that. So this one is going to be the white thumbnailed version of the Lewis Hamilton and his race engineer interaction at Abu Dhabi 2021. Now, before I actually get into the breakdown of the audio and go through it and analyse what's being said and what should be being said, just to address something that is a repetitive thing from the people that come here to seek to try to undermine the channel and try to disturb people's minds, disturb people's understandings. And this is a common disturbance. It's a common, it's not even an argument. It's a common thing that is presented, which is a mistruth, an untruth. So one of our regular trolls, Simon States, has put, I've spotted something that is missing from this video. The fact that all teams agreed with the FIA that they'd like a green flag finish if safe to do so. You're welcome. And he's put his own thumb up, and somebody's put the thumb up to like that comment as well. You can't do that. You categorically cannot have an agreement to contrive an ending to a sport. And yet this troll thinks that that serves as some sort of validity for a contrived ending. As I've stated numerous times, the teams contesting a football cup final, whether that be the World Cup final, whether that be the FA Cup final, whatever cup final it is, those two teams cannot forge an agreement before the final to say, let's make sure we end this with a penalty shootout. No, you cannot do that. You play the sport in accordance with the rules of the sport. You do not say to the referee, we want you to ensure that you bend the rules, ignore the rules, just make sure that this game ends with a penalty shootout. You can't do that. You can't do that. That is called result fixing, result manipulation. And yet, those who like it, those who liked the outcome, will try to utilise that as an argument. That demonstrates their lack of understanding. Now, by rights, I should be deleting retarded comments like that, because all they do is pollute the minds of people. They pollute the minds of those that don't have the ability to see what the reality of the situation is. Instead, all they have is self-serving desire. They are the strap-on fanboy. I like Max Verstappen. I want Max Verstappen to win. Oh, that sounds like an argument that I can use to validate Max Verstappen being handed it. Oh, all the teams agreed, so that makes it fine. It doesn't make it fine, because it's not allowed. It's a fraud. The fact that you don't understand what constitutes a fraud, the fact that many people that come here to comment don't even understand what constitutes evidence of wrongdoing, is sadly what is a problem with cognitive ability within society. Unfortunately, the masses, okay, are mind conditioned. You believe what it is the TV tells you. You believe what it is the media tells you. And you can't take a step back from that and understand that maybe they've got an agenda. Maybe they're telling me something that's not actually true, but whoever owns the media is making a lot of money, or they're saying it, they're making sure it's being said in a certain way so that we accept that, because they don't like it being challenged. Because them or their friends or the people at the level that they are, somewhere along the lines, somebody is making significant amounts of money through things being that way. That's all part of this dynamic. And if you can't accept that and you don't understand that, that is a failing on your part. Okay? That's a you problem. There's many of us that do see it for exactly what it is. Before I get into the audio, the only thing that is truly matters and that all are known in the sport, all the people in the sport are contesting under this. Okay, so this is the International Sporting Code that all of the competition is actually conducted with them. This underpins the competition. And you can just, Martin Brundle will tell you it's this thick, and it's not. It would be the equivalent of a 40-page document when all in English. It's 80 pages when you have half in French, half in English. When all in English, it would be 40 pages. And all it is, you don't even need to have much of an attention span. A slightly longer attention span than those of you who are just into Instagram and TikTok. But providing you can hold your attention for the next 2 minutes, this will tell you all you need to know. And that is, the FIA shall be the sole international sporting authority entitled to make and enforce regulations based on the fundamental principles of safety and sporting fairness. Now, what we had in Abu Dhabi 2021 was a safety issue, that being a car had crashed and was an obstacle on the track. Hence, you can't carry on racing. That car is there. As cars come around turn 14, it is directly in the path of where them cars would be going if they were travelling at full speed. That's a safety concern. You have to deal with that safety concern. Once you've dealt with it, then you have to concern yourself with sporting fairness. And that is, we have stopped people from racing. We've had to intervene with that race because of a safety concern. And now we need to sort out sporting fairness. Now, what is sporting fairness? Well, before Latifi crashed, what was the race situation? Well, the race situation was the leader, Lewis Hamilton, was that fast he'd started lapping the cars and had lapped the car that was in 8th position at that point in time. But 8th is still in a race with 7th. Because of having to put the safety car on track to deal with that safety incident, 7th, which was Gasly, disappears off around the track and joins the end of the safety car snake. 8th, which is Lando Norris, he gets held back. We have to make sure sporting fairness is restored to Lando Norris and all those cars that are behind Lando Norris before we can commence racing again. Hence, we have regulation. So, as we scroll down this, we don't even have to go too far. The FIA shall be the final international court of appeal for the settlement of disputes arising therefrom. It being acknowledged that the FIA, well, that's about motorcycling. To the fullest extent permitted by applicable law, neither the FIA nor any of its officers, agents, employees, directors, or officials shall be liable to any party for any claim, cost, damage, or loss resulting from any action, decision, or omission by the FIA and its officers, agents, employees, directors, or officials in connection with their duties, except for willful misconduct or fraud. And what they've actually perpetrated is willful misconduct and fraud. So they've put themselves a disclaimer in their own regulations, in their own sporting code. Oh, we're the people responsible and we're the only people allowed to be responsible, but you're not allowed to sue us for anything relating to this sport unless we have willfully misconducted ourselves or committed fraud. Well, you've willfully committed fraud. That's what you've done. We have things such as errors, we have things such as mistakes, and when they're an error, you can rectify them. When there's a mistake, you can rectify it. You can hold your hand up, you can explain, okay, we acknowledge that there was a problem, okay, we've now done an investigation, we've established what the cause of the problem was, what the level of misunderstanding may have been, and what we've done, we've operated ourselves in a manner whereby we've corrected the situation. The situation is correctable, and hence this is what we've done. They've never done that, and instead of admitting anything, they've covered it up. They've lied. They're presented with the world with a pack of lies, and when I go through their report into the event, I'll unpick that and demonstrate to you all that this was an entire pack of lies. So yes, you are liable, you did commit fraud. This is the governing body of motorsport committing fraud. Understand that. When the governing body of the motorsport commits fraud, you have a problem. They're assisted by the media because none of the media have identified that the governing body of the motorsport has committed fraud. Why would the media not do that? Ask yourself that question. Why would the media not be able to identify that the governing body of a sport has committed fraud? Well, they won't do that, and the reason they won't do that is because the sport, the show of Formula One, is actually owned by Liberty Media. They serve to contrive the ending for viewing figures, to attract an audience, to excite the children, which they sell the show to, and all of the associated products and brands that are associated with it, and they make a lot of money out of that. The owners of Liberty Media own and have fingers in pies of other medias, and therefore they make sure that media only tells the narrative that it's allowed to tell. It doesn't report the true nature of events. That's the dynamic. The sooner that people actually switch on to understand that what we are being fed through the media matrix, the system whereby we get given the information that we get given, that is under control of certain people, are limited to certain few people, and they will tell us how things are in the way that they want us to believe things to be. And that isn't the truth. Okay, so that is what is going on there. That's why you don't hear from the media that the governing body of the sport committed a fraud. All of those teams within the sport were complicit with that fraud. The company that was contracted to broadcast and commentate on that event were lying. They were serving that fraud. They were lying about what was possible before the rules were even broken, to set it up to condition each and every one of us to believe that that fraud was going to be okay. Oh, it's okay for this to happen. That's how filthy it is. Now, the International Sporting Code, and this is as far as we're going to go on this because this is as far as we need to go, so that the above powers may be exercised in a fair and equitable manner. The FIA has drawn up the International Sporting Code, which includes all appendices thereto. A fair and equitable manner. Was Carlos Sainz treated fairly in Abu Dhabi by having 2 cars left in his way? Max Verstappen got 5 cars cleared out of the way of his way in order to be able to be right on the back of Lewis Hamilton. Did Carlos Sainz have the 2 cars in his way cleared out of the way so that he could be right on the back of Max Verstappen? Did Yuki Tsunoda have the car cleared out of the way of his way so he could be right on the back of Valtteri Bottas? Did Lando Norris have the opportunity to be right on the back of Pierre Gasly? And did Daniel Ricciardo have the opportunity to be right on the back of Sebastian Vettel? And the answer to all of those questions is no. Hence, it wasn't operated in a fair manner. Anybody that would argue or put forward the suggestion that there is a problem with the regulation, nobody understands the regulation, perhaps the regulations could be interpreted differently, you're wrong. Because when you work through those different interpretations that are put forward, that were only ever put forward that time for the very first time in Abu Dhabi 2021, that event that they had to change the course of history with. And so they had to invent that there was a different interpretation. That afterwards they went, oh, actually, no. Oh, we've changed one word and now it's all okay. Now that one word change means that the whole confusion relating to all of this that nobody was ever confused about, everybody understood, everybody had seen operate for the last 10 seasons. But Abu Dhabi 2021, Red Bull present that there's a problem with them. Oh, but now we've cleared it up by changing the word any to all, and that solves the whole problem, doesn't it? No, because when you work through all of those scenarios that they present as being challenges to what those regulations are, they produced bastardized outcomes. They produce invalid outcomes, don't they? They produce the outcome we got at Abu Dhabi 2021, demonstrating that their entire construct of their entire argument is false. A fraudulent argument that the FIA upheld. They went, yeah, we agree with Red Bull on this one, at this appeal that they're not even party to be. They're not even entitled to be there, that they were invited in to present their version of events. The whole thing is a facade and a fraud, and I will go through that appeal once again, demonstrating the true nature of it. Again, no media has ever exposed it. No media has ever broken this down. Why is it that you have never heard the true nature of this through the media? Keep asking that question. The purpose of the code is to regulate and encourage and facilitate motorsport. Now, sport is to be played on a level playing field. There's always going to be winners and there's always going to be losers, and there's going to be people that are better than each other. So we're not talking about talent, we're talking about you would play that game in accordance with the rules and the regulations that apply to everybody. That way the outcomes aren't skewed. That is called sporting fairness and meritocracy. It's not a handicap system. 1.2.3. It will never be enforced so as to prevent or impede a competition or the participation of a competitor, save when the FIA concludes that it is necessary for the safe, fair, or orderly conduct of motorsport. Safety, fairness, orderly conduct. What took place? Well, a safety incident that then needed to apply sporting fairness, and there wasn't time left in that event. What did they do? They ignored sporting fairness. They actually ignored safety, but I'm going to come on to that after this series. That's something that, again, new things are emerging all the time. But they were always there, but perhaps people didn't pick up on. But we'll get to that. The other thing that we need to look at, and this is Bono. This is what Mercedes actually knew. The safety car. These are the regulations. This is what you know as a team. If you are the team's owner, the team's sporting director, if you are a strategist / race engineer, this is what you know. You need to know the rules and regulations of the sport because you will utilize them when formulating your strategy. So this tells you safety car. When that safety car is deployed, this is what applies to that safety car. The first part will tell you what the purpose of the safety car is, how it's going to be deployed on track. Okay, when the order to deploy the safety car, when the order is given to deploy the safety car, the message safety car deployed will be sent to all competitors. No car may be driven unnecessarily slowly. The safety car will join the track with its orange lights illuminated. All competing cars must reduce speed and form up in a line behind the safety car, no more than 10 lengths apart. With the exception of the cases listed under A to H below, no driver may overtake another car on track. When ordered to do so by the clerk of the course, the observer in the car will use a green light to signal any cars between it and the leader to pass, that they should pass, which is what we saw in Abu Dhabi. The safety car came out onto track in between the car of Valtteri Bottas and Yuki Tsunoda. The safety car displayed its green light to wave past Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly, so that the car that was the first car picked up by that safety car was Lewis Hamilton. There is your 48.9. 48.10. Except under Article 48.12 below, the safety car shall be used at least until the leader is behind it and all remaining cars are lined up behind him. Once behind the safety car, the leader must keep within 10 car lengths of it, except under Article 48.13. So 48.12 is the applicable regulation when cars have been lapped. When cars haven't been lapped, 48.10 is the applicable regulation. And let's go through that again. The safety car shall be used at least until the leader is behind it and all remaining cars are lined up behind him. What does that mean? It means first place, the leader, is the first car behind the safety car, and all of the other cars, because no car has been lapped, is lined up behind the leader. So what have you got? You've got a line of cars in the correct race order, first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, all the way down to the last running competitor, lined up one behind the other in a line. What has that done? That has wiped out all of the previously built up advantages. Then, and only then, can that safety car be removed from the track. You've intervened with a race due to a safety concern. You've deployed the safety car in order to slow all the competitors down, bunch them up, allow a window where people can be working on the track without the concern of cars driving by at speed every few seconds. And now, once it's been declared safe, once you've achieved this condition where all of the previously built up advantages have been wiped out for all competitors, then and only then can you withdraw that safety car and resume racing. Very simple. Safety followed by sporting fairness. Safety car to deal with the safety incident, sporting fairness to ensure that the advantages that were built up between all competitors are wiped out uniformly between all competitors, and that is the condition that we have to go racing under. It's very, very simple. These people that go, oh, the rules are a minefield. The regulations, oh, they're so complex. It's such a complex book. David Coulthard gets interviewed the day after by the BBC. It might even be on the day. And they'll tell you just how complex it is. It's so difficult for you with your little heads. Don't you go worrying your little heads. Us in the media will tell you that you can't understand. Just trust us in the media. We will tell you the truth. We won't just tell you it's confusing and therefore you won't be able to understand it. Or is that quite easy to understand? I would tell you it's quite easy to understand. And if you can't understand that, well, you're the person that's the problem. Okay? Your lack of cognitive function is the problem. You need to go and deal with that, not jump up in the comments section. Okay? Polluting the minds of others. Subverting culture. Don't do it. You are a pollutant. You are a turd of a human being. But some of you relish being a turd of a human being. 48.11. Under certain circumstances, the clerk of the course may ask the cars and the safety car to use the pit lane. It wasn't one of those times. We saw it earlier in the season in Baku, Azerbaijan, whereby the incident was adjacent to the pit lane. And so what they did, rather than lap those cars on track, they took them through the pit lane. Now, was there room to lap them on the track next to that incident in Baku? Yes, there was. They could have done that. But they felt that they could deal with the incident quicker by the marshals continuing to work whilst that safety car snake was going through the pits, as opposed to having to all withdraw from the site whilst that safety car passed the incident, only for them then to have to return to working on the recovery operation. So they felt that they could do it quicker. The way that turned out was on the suggestion of Red Bull that we should red flag the race. Again, on the notion of a safety concern being that we've had 2 unexpected tyre failures in this race. If a third one was to take place whilst those cars were travelling through the pit lane, it could result in catastrophe, which is a fair comment. The actual chance of that taking place whilst those cars was at a significantly reduced speed was significantly reduced, but who knows for sure. Either way, we got what we got there. This is the key though. 48.12, the regulation that people claim they don't understand and that's open to debate, and it absolutely isn't. This is what Peter Bonington of Mercedes should have been talking about during that safety car period. He didn't, and by not, what he did, he demonstrated that he and Mercedes were complicit with this so-called agreement to end the race under green conditions at all costs. Because none of these safety car regulations are optional. They're not optional because of skewed outcomes. If you don't do them, then Lando Norris gets left a lap behind Pierre Gasly. You cannot resume racing without releasing the lapped cars. You cannot resume racing with those 5 lapped cars in situ because Lando Norris is now a lap down on Gasly. That's invalid. So you have to carry out this regulation. Anybody that proposes, which is what Brundle and Crofty were doing before the Michael Massey supposed error, they were saying, oh, will they even release the lapped cars? It's not mandatory under the regulation. It absolutely is mandatory. Once again, the media lying to you, lying to me. But don't lie to me when I know that you're lying to me. I'll call you out for lying to me, and I'll make sure that there's a consequence for you lying and committing fraud against us all. So, if the clerk of the course considers it safe to do so, and the message "lapped cars may now overtake" has been sent to all competitors via the official messaging system, any cars that have been lapped by the leader will be required to pass the cars on the lead lap and the safety car. It's key that that message gets sent to everybody, because the cars on the lead lap need to understand that this is happening, so that they are no longer weaving to keep their tyres warm. Okay, they have to remain on the racing line to enable the release cars to pass them safely without having to worry about a car weaving about in front of them. Okay, so it needs to go to all competitors. The lapped cars need to know that they are now being released to unlap, and the cars on the lead lap need to know that the lapped cars are doing that so that they stop weaving. Hence, safety. This is the regulation. This is how it's done. Okay, so if the clerk of the course considers it safe to do so. So firstly, the track needs to be safe. Secondly, the message needs to be given to all competitors that we are now carrying out this procedure. Any cars that have been lapped by the leader will be required to pass the cars on the lead lap and the safety car. The word any is correct. The use of the word all would mean all cars, when the reality is all cars may not qualify. If you are ineligible to unlap because you've got yourself lapped after the safety car has passed the safety car line, crossed the safety car line for the second time, you are not eligible to be released. At Abu Dhabi 2021, the lapped cars, all 8 of them, were already lapped. None of them became unlapped. It was 8 lapped cars that were all eligible to unlap. So any car that had been lapped by the leader, any car that is eligible, of which they all were, is required. Okay, it's not an option, it's a requirement. It's not an option. Is required to pass the cars on the lead lap and the safety car. This will only apply to the cars that were lapped at the time they crossed the line at the end of the lap, during which they crossed the first safety car line for the second time after the safety car was deployed. And that is your qualifying criteria. So it may not be all cars. The fact that they have replaced any with all doesn't make that regulation any different or any better, because it's any that qualify or all that qualify. It makes no difference, does it? But they've now tell you that it's all means something different. Oh, legally it doesn't. But what that's done is that people that don't understand, that's enough to convince them that something has changed and that there was a problem beforehand. There wasn't a problem and nothing has changed. That's the way things are. Having overtaken the cars on the lead lap and the safety car, these cars should then proceed around the track at an appropriate speed without overtaking, and make every effort to take up position at the back of the line of cars behind the safety car. So, these are the release cars. They should proceed around the track at an appropriate speed, so not racing speed, an appropriate speed, without overtaking, and this is something we'll come to in probably the next video or shortly after, and make every effort to take up position at the back of the line of cars behind the safety car. Their intention, the aim, the purpose of this regulation isn't to get them out of the way of the race between the leaders. It is to restore sporting fairness to all competitors. It is to enable Lando Norris to make it around that track and be behind Pierre Gasly, so that that previously built up advantage is wiped out between Gasly and Norris too. That is it. That's what these regulations mean. Simple as that. There is no different interpretation of this. This is entirely what it is. Whilst they are overtaking, and in order to ensure this may be carried out safely, the cars on the lead lap must always stay on the racing line unless deviating from it is unavoidable. Unless the clerk of the course considers the presence of the safety car is still necessary, Once the last lapped car has passed the leader, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap, which means the cars that have been released, that qualified to be released, in Abu Dhabi that was 8 lapped cars qualified and all were required to be released, would have been given the remainder of the lap that they are released on, plus one further lap of that safety car with which to catch the back of the pack. And then, and only then, can you remove that safety car and commence racing again. Usually, if the lapped cars are released approximately half the way around a lap, they get the half a lap plus the further safety car lap, and so 1.5 laps is enough for them to make it around the track at close to racing speed to catch that snake of cars that is travelling at safety car speed. And hence you form that snake up in the correct race order, nose to tail, first down to the last remaining competitor, which is what the earlier regulation 48.10 is actually stating. The safety car shall be used at least until the leader is behind it and all remaining cars are lined up behind him. And this is how you achieve that, or the intention of achieving that is achieved by 48.12. Safety car, leader behind it, all remaining cars formed up behind that leader in the correct race order. If the clerk of the course considers track conditions are unsuitable for overtaking, the message "overtaking will not be permitted" will be sent to all competitors via the official messaging system. At the point in time where we saw on the screen, lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. Well, where is that saying? Where does it say lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake? It doesn't, does it? It says overtaking will not be permitted. They mean two different things. Overtaking will not be permitted means the same thing to every competitor in that event. That means you, as a competitor, is not allowed to overtake. Every single person knows that they are not allowed to overtake. You've just got to proceed around there following the car that's in front of you because you're not allowed to overtake it and no car is allowed to overtake you. Overtaking will not be permitted. A very clear command. Lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake is ambiguous. Does that mean if I'm not lapped, am I allowed to overtake? Who am I allowed to overtake? Are lapped cars allowed to overtake each other? Are they allowed to if racing resumes, which it's not allowed to do before you carry out this regulation, so it doesn't mean anything, but then am I allowed to overtake the cars that I'm racing against, those that are still on the same lap, not the ones that have been able to gain a lap on me? Or am I allowed to, if I've got better tyres than somebody that has lapped me, am I allowed to overtake them to unlap myself? Now I'm able to go faster than they are. It's all ambiguous. Nobody knows, do they? It means you have to answer all of them questions to even go, oh, well, maybe you're allowed to do this, but maybe... See, rubbish. Absolute rubbish. It's not in the regulations. The FIA tell you it's a standard message. It's not. It's something they made up at Abu Dhabi 2021. Understand that. What media has told you that? If the clerk of the course considers track conditions are unsuitable for overtaking, the message "overtaking will not be permitted." Well, the clerk of the course considered that overtaking was not suitable. Why was that? Because there were marshals on the track at turn 14 when that was given. There were marshals still on the track as that safety car snake was passing turn 14 on lap 56. That lap which these lapped cars had to be released on in order to get any racing. Because even if they were managed to be released on lap 56, lap 57 would have been that mandatory safety car lap, and that is the only way there could have been a race. The end of lap 56, then marshals are still on track. It's clearly not safe for overtaking. It's clearly not safe for racing, and therefore the message has to be overtaking will not be permitted until it is permitted. And when it is permitted, then this regulation gets followed through. And that is, once it's safe, once the clerk of the course has done his checks, made sure there's no marshals on the track, made sure there's no debris on the track, made sure the barrier is okay, we're now safe, we'll now commence this regulation. And that regulation, once we go back up again, if the clerk of the course considers it safe to do so, you then carry this through. And that the earliest that could happen was lap 57. And once on lap 57, the last lap car has passed the safety car, that safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. At the end of lap 58, it's a safety car finish. That's all those regulations are. When the clerk of the course decides it's safe to call in the safety car, the message safety car in this lap will be sent via the official messaging system. Okay, well, you did that before you carried out the regulation. And not only that, you did that before it was safe. You did that before it was safe, and I will prove that to you in my next video. You hadn't declared the track safe. Either that or something else was going on, and I'll prove that to you in my next video. Anyway, let's go through the audio. Bono from Mercedes knew all this. So let's have a look at what's going on, and let's have a look if this audio corresponds with what should be going on. Oh no, Nicholas Latifi has crashed. So he's just come to a standstill at turn 14. Blue dot there. Okay.
So we have a double yellow, exit turn 4, exit turn 4. Turn 14, so turn 14, yellow, entering it now, stay left, staying out, safety car, keep the delta positive.
Okay, well, what we don't get is, oh, Latifi has crashed, do we? Okay, we didn't get Latifi's name being mentioned.
Turn 14, yellow, entering it now, stay left, staying out.
Staying out. Well, why would we stay out? Well, we've got a 12-second window between first and second. 12 seconds isn't enough to go into the pits, change your tyres and get back out on track ahead of that second place car if that second place car chooses not to change tyres. Now, you cannot decide, well, if you've got a race where you don't necessarily know if it's going to restart or not, what do you gamble on? Do you gamble on track position, or do you think, well, I'm going to lose track position on the hope that it might restart and make sure I'm on the right tyres? Well, you'd use data. And the data is that on average 5.5 laps of racing are lost in such an incident. There were only 5.4 laps of that race remaining for Hamilton at the point in time Latifi crashed. So using that data, using the average there, it would indicate that this is likely to be a safety car finish. Hence, you would not lose or not risk losing track position by pitting your car and risking that the opponent in second would say, well, we'll do the opposite. He's pitted, we'll stay on track if this is a safety car finish. Then we win by default because he cannot pass us. You would have been throwing away the race victory due to an incident. So you maintain track position. You would utilize data in that decision-making process. Straight away, they know how far they need to be ahead of any competitor in order to get into the pits and get back out on track ahead of them. What they will also know is, at this stage of the race, the likelihood of this incident being cleared up in time in order to resume racing. Hence, they would make their decision accordingly. The other thing that you need to bear in mind is that this incident took longer than was anticipated, and it took longer than what was anticipated is because Nicholas Latifi's car caught fire. Had that have not taken place, and had they have not needed to deploy the fire extinguisher, that clear-up operation would have been quicker. Firstly, they would have been able to get onto the track and deal with that car quicker. Secondly, the time taken to firstly go, there's a fire, we need to get an extinguisher, we need to put the fire out, and the time taken in even deploying that extinguisher is extra time that's added, and then you have to sweep that powder away. That's extra time. Now, that extra time could have been the difference between whether racing was possible or not. This thing was a contrivance. They might well have got away with it without that fire. Understand that? Well, they've got away with it so far, but perhaps most of us would not have gone into to produce videos like this, were it just be for the what's the word I'm looking for? If we'd just thought, well, Latifi's crash was dodgy. Was it a crash gate? Did he crash on purpose? And what could we prove about that? Other than highlighting the things that aren't right about it, such as the lap that he crashed, his race engineer saying it must be this lap. Okay, the actual nature of the crash was extremely dodgy driving. Extremely dodgy driving. Oh, he went off track the corner or two before, giving him the dirty tyres, still part of the tyre narrative. As he went around that corner at turn 14, he was in third gear. Every time he took it on the previous 4 laps, he was in fourth gear. So you go round the corner in a lower gear, you hit the revs, the back end's going to come out on you. Everybody knows that that's ever driven a rear-wheel drive car. So you put the back end into the barriers, you sit there, you've got anti-stall on your car, the engine's still running, and your race engineer just goes, yeah, switch off then. And Latifi makes no attempt to see if it's possible to move that car, to manoeuvre it, to drive back to the pits. No, just switch it off there, mate. There's a lot wrong with that. But maybe we wouldn't have even gone into that depth to even consider that, were it not for the rules being broken. They had to break the rules, perhaps because of that fire. And then, ahead of them breaking the rules, they had to get Brundle and Crofty lying to you about what was possible. And then all the teams had to be complicit with the breaking of them rules. And then every form of media has never told the truth about it in the aftermath. And they've just served to validate it and come up with all the excuses and throw in there all the things to fuel the strap-on fanboy to jump up in the comments section to argue in social media to subvert the truth. The simple truth.
Safety car, keep the delta positive.
Shit butter, man.
So strap mode 1, strap mode 1.
Box.
Negative.
Shit, Bono man, yes, Lewis Hamilton knows that something is afoot.
That's unbelievable, man. What's the situation behind me?
So, situation is, Verstappen has pitted, he had a free pit stop, we would have lost track position to him. 4 laps remaining when you cross the line, so this field has to bunch and then they have to send lap cars through, so it may not restart.
Oh, fuck it.
Absolutely correct. Okay, absolutely correct. And so what you have here is Lewis Hamilton saying, okay, what's the situation? What's going on? If you've checked out my analysis of Max Verstappen's audio, you don't get Max Verstappen asking those questions. Max is strangely silent. They're both in contention for becoming world champion. And yet Max isn't asking what's going on. Rather strange, that is. Rather strange of the strap on. Let's just rewind this.
What's the situation behind me?
So, situation is, Verstappen has pitted, he had a free pit stop, we would have lost track position to him. 4 laps remaining when you cross the line, so this field has to bunch and then they have to send lap cars through, so it may not restart.
Oh, fuck. Is he right behind me?
He will be, once they've sorted out all the order. This is going to take a while to sort out.
So there you go. Nothing wrong so far, but Lewis wants to know what's going on.
With new tyres.
I do feel that's a bit of a strange thing to say from Lewis. It's a soundbite that F1 TV used to play to the world that fed into the tyre narrative. Who knows what Lewis is going through his head? What he does know is that he knows that he was on course to be an 8-time world champion. He knows that he's just passed a dodgy crash right towards the end of the contest that's now going to throw a spanner in the works. So maybe he's trying to make sense of it.
Copy Lewis, we would have lost track position if we had pitted.
Which you would have done had Red Bull not have pitted too. And with the data reflecting that this is likely to be a safety car finish, then you don't lose track position.
Safety car's going way too slow.
Yeah, just stay off the debris, so stay left.
Okay, so this is the first time Hamilton is saying the safety car is going way too slow. Now, I don't have any comparable data. For 2021, the track had been changed from the previous seasons. They'd reprofiled some of the corners. It was a different track. Okay, so you can't compare the lap times of safety cars from anything prior to 2021. And likewise, if I don't think there's been any safety car incidents since, there might have been. Ultimately, I don't care on the grounds that you can't make valid comparisons. There can be different safety cars. They might use the Mercedes, they might use the Aston Martin. The lap time achieved by either safety car is going to be different due to the different performance levels of those two cars. Also, the track conditions are going to be different from year to year, and maybe the tyres that those cars are on are going to be different. So you can't have comparable data for the safety car lapping speed. What we do know is these drivers know what is normal, and what their normality would be is when we're in a safety car situation, what would be the typical speed of following that safety car. And Lewis Hamilton knows that he is significantly slower than what that safety car would normally be lapping at.
Safety car needs to pick up pace.
Second time, the safety car needs to pick up pace. Now, why is Lewis Hamilton the only one that's complained about the speed of the safety car? Because all those drivers are used to being in safety car situations, and they all know the relative speed of being in a safety car situation. And yet Lewis Hamilton is the only one who's actually saying anything about it. All those cars that have formed up that snake behind Lewis are all being impacted by that similarly slow speed. They're all having to travel at that slow speed. None of them else are calling it out. In other events, you do get that. You do get, oh, this safety car is going really slow. I'm struggling to maintain temperatures here because of how slow that's going. And it's not just the lead car that says that. Lewis Hamilton's the only person that's saying it. What are all the other drivers doing?
Copy.
Thanks for that, Bono. Copy. This is all we get from Bono. We don't go, yeah, this is a joke. I'll get onto Massey to get him to pick the speed up. This is ridiculous. They are purposefully going slow to try to ensure that they're going to get a racing lap. Okay? They know that this is going to take about 10 to 15 minutes to clear up. So by them slowing this down as much as they can, then they're going to try and ensure that there's still a lap left in this race to go racing on. And that is a manipulation in itself.
So the field has yet to bunch.
The information being passed on to Lewis. Again, check out the Verstappen audio analysis. That wasn't the sort of thing that was being communicated to Max. When Max's world championship was on the line, he wasn't being informed of this, was he? Wasn't being informed of how this situation was unfolding. Perhaps he already knew.
You need to tell the safety car to speed up. He's not flat out down this straight.
Copy, Lewis.
Is that the third time? Third time. And Lewis Hamilton will know whether that safety car is going flat out or not. And you can tell by when you hear the engine note that Mercedes is having to hold back so much.
The safety car's not going full gas down the straight.
Fourth time.
Copy, Lewis. Understood.
Copy, copy, copy. Is that all you've got, Bono? Is that all you've got? So you know that this audio can be broadcast by F1 TV to the world. You can be calling out this corruption that is actually unfolding right now. You can be calling out the fact that the safety car driver is going purposely slow to purposely try and thwart Lewis Hamilton, because that's what it's going to do, by artificially prolonging this situation by going slow to try and ensure you've got a racing lap. Is doing one thing only. It's stuffing Lewis Hamilton and playing into the hands of Max Verstappen. And you, as Lewis Hamilton's race engineer, is just going, yeah, copy, yeah, copy, yeah, copy. Who are you copying? Because you're not standing up for your man, are you? You're not saying, yeah, this is ridiculous. This safety car is going purposefully slow to drag this out to try and ensure that they're going to get a racing lap that they now know Max Verstappen would be odds on to win. This isn't in accordance with the regulations. This isn't okay. No car should be driven erratically slowly. That applies to the safety car as well. That applies to the safety car as well. The reason you do this is to try and maintain tyres and brakes on these Formula One cars. That's why you have them lapping behind a high-powered safety car. Otherwise, you'd just use a Ford Focus, wouldn't you?
how many cars are behind me and in between us.
Why does Lewis Hamilton ask that question? Well, the only thing I could come up with is this notion that maybe he's clicking through now. We've been party to this discussion whereby teams and everybody in the show has agreed to, wherever possible, finishing this as a race rather than behind the safety car, so that we don't switch off the audience, so that the new attracted fans aren't despondent, don't think, oh, that was a bit of a anticlimax of an ending. And somebody like Martin Brundle has proposed to everybody, or even he's convinced Michael Massey to inform all the drivers and teams. Oh yes, as the race director, I can elect to restart this with the lapped cars in situ, and yet nobody's worked it through and said, well, if you do that, this is what it's going to produce. You're not allowed to do that. They've all nodded their head and gone, yeah, okay, yeah, well, yeah, whatever, because it makes us loads of money. Fine, whatever. They didn't work it through. Or maybe they did work it through and don't care. They don't care about sporting fairness. They just took the money. So they maybe agreed to this notion of, yeah, well, if we have to just resume racing with lapped cars in situ, then that's what we'll do. And Lando Norris gets stuffed. Maybe Lewis Hamilton, that's clicking in his head. Okay, well, if they're not going to have time left to carry out this procedure, which they have to do, you can't do it any other way. But this is this notion of this team's agreement. These teams have made an agreement beforehand that you're not allowed to do. It's a fraudulent agreement. You are not allowed to contrive an ending. They have done. And maybe Lewis is thinking about that and thinking, okay, well, if they are going to go racing without carrying out this procedure, what's the situation? I've got 5 cars in between me and Max. That's okay. He ain't making it through. Because when this starts, I'll go. There'll be a half a second gap between everybody. So he'll be about 2.5, 3 seconds behind me already. And as soon as I hit the gas, it will take everybody a fraction of a second to then react to that. And so by the time I cross the start-finish line, and by the time he crosses the start-finish line, he'll be behind me by more than 3 seconds. And he's not catching that in a lap or two. So that Hamilton's probably still confident, yet even in this situation, if they do restart the race like this, it's not a problem. I've still got this.
So stay hard left. 5 cars between you. The field still hasn't bunched.
How many laps left?
There'll be 3 when you cross the line.
So he knows. Well, just play that again. Oops.
So stay hard left. 5 cars between you. The field still hasn't bunched.
How many laps left?
There'll be 3 when you cross the line.
So Hamilton knows that the safety car is still on track. Okay, he knows 3 laps when he crosses the line. He knows the safety car is in front of him. So even if the safety car comes in at the end of this lap, which, it's not like he knows he's just come by the scene. This is the end of lap 55. He knows that there's still debris on the track. He knows he's just seen the craning Latifi's car off the track. But even if the safety car was to come in at the end of this lap, there'd be 2 laps of racing and there'd be 5 cars between Hamilton and Verstappen. So Hamilton's still in a good position. All right, but he's still got to be mindful. This incident needs to be cleared up, and those cars that need to bunch all need to be bunched. Like I say, what we end up doing, we ended up following down a path which you're not allowed to go down because the regulations don't permit it. But that's what we're doing. We're having to try and search for answers which we shouldn't have to search for because they've broken the rules, and it creates a scenario that's not even allowed to happen. And then we're actually following that scenario through and then trying to unpick it, which is ridiculous. Lap 56. The lap which they need to release the lapped cars on. Look at where Gasly is. Gasly is at turn 9, still scampering to catch the back of the pack, having pitted late into that safety car window. But Perez is now retired, so Gasly's in 6th place, even though he's right at the back. 6th place, right at the back. How does that work when there's 14 competitors remaining? How can you be 6th and be the last competitor in a train of 14 cars? Doesn't work like that, does it?
So lapped cars are now allowed to overtake, so no weaving, stay on line.
So, the first message given to the teams clearly is that lapped cars may now overtake. Race control is panicking. Race control must give the information out. Michael Massey is an English-speaking person. Okay, he's Australian, and therefore English is his first language. There is no lost in translation situation here. Several of the teams, the initial message they give is that lapped cars will now overtake, and then immediately they correct to say not. Actually, no, we're not going to do that. That would demonstrate that race control has initially tried to rush through this unlapping procedure to say, right, do it now. And then they've realised, whoa, actually, no, we can't. It's not safe. And were anything to happen, we would be liable. We cannot do this. Such was their desire to get that contrived ending the way that they wanted. But there were marshals on track at this moment, and they remain there until this safety car snake passes turn 14 on this lap, lap 56.
So lapped cars are now allowed to overtake, so no weaving, stay on line. Oh, they're not going to overtake actually. They're not going to allow the cars to overtake.
So what does that mean? Just means it's not safe. That's all it means. And let's just quickly go back to the regulation. If we go back to the regulations, if the clerk of the course considers track conditions are unsuitable for overtaking, the message, overtaking will not be permitted, will be sent to all competitors via the official messaging system. The message is overtaking will not be permitted. It's not lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. It's not in the regulations. It's not an official message, is it? There's a contrivance going on. There is a contrivance going on right now. And it's something that has been pre-planned. It's been thought of beforehand as to actually this is what we'll do if we need to. And with that contrivance, with that thought process, with this contingency plan, Red Bull go away and derive their strategy for their clever cards. It's an entire contrivance. But that's all that's going on now. It's not safe, so if the clerk of the course considers track conditions are unsuitable for overtaking, which they are because there's marshals on track, the message overtaking will not be permitted. That wasn't the message given out though. The message was lapped cars. A contrivance. An absolute contrivance.
I believe they may restart the race like this.
We believe they may restart the race like this. Well, that's not possible. That's not allowed. Okay? That's not in any of the regulations whatsoever. So there's your 40. Well, I've gone through them. None of them are optional. This is saying when the clerk of the course decides it's safe to call in the safety car, the message safety car in will be sent to all competitors. Okay, 48.14, each lap completed while the safety car is deployed will be counted as a race lap. 48.15, if the safety car is still deployed at the beginning of the last lap or is deployed during the last lap, it will enter the pit lane at the end of the lap and the cars will then take the end of race signal as normal without overtaking, just so that that safety car is off track when they cross the finish line and it looks like somebody's taking the checkered flag, not the safety car taking the checkered flag. And then you just go on to virtual safety car regulations. It's not optional. There's no, they don't have to unlap the cars in a safety car situation. They're the regulations that are mandatory that you must carry out if you deploy the safety car. Why do you think, Bono, that they may restart the race like this? They're not allowed to.
So we believe they may restart the race like this.
So we believe they may restart the race like this. You're not allowed to, Bono. Why are you saying this on the radio? This demonstrates that you are complicit. You've been in a meeting of all of the competitors and the officials and the media of this sport to plan it out between you that actually we're going to somehow make sure, come what may, there's going to be a racing finish. And you're now seeing the rules of the sport being broken, and you're just going, we think they're going to restart like this. That's not allowed to happen. You're defrauding everybody by enabling the rules of the sport to be broken by the governing body of the sport, and you going along with it and going, yeah, we think they're going to restart like this. You're fraudulent. You are complicit with sport manipulation, with sport fixing. Lewis Hamilton's own team is complicit with this. You are frauds. Understand that. And you will pay the penalty too. And you'll pay a bigger penalty for not even standing up for your guy and exposing the truth of this. You frauds. Absolute filth. Lewis Hamilton is probably feeling, okay, we are now on lap 56. If we believe they're going to restart like this, because this is what they told us beforehand, this was the meeting that they said beforehand that they will want to restart this come what may. We're now going to restart this without carrying out this mandatory regulation, and this is now what it is. Because Martin Brundle said it, Michael Massey said it, and it's all okay. Well, that's okay. I've not gone and read the regulations, and I've not worked through all the scenarios that may or may not be willing to happen. I'm going on what they said may happen, but what does this mean to me now? Well, what it means to me now, I've got 5 cars in between me and Max Verstappen. At the point in time that Latifi crashed, I'd got 3 cars in between me and Max Verstappen, because at that point in time, Max had passed everybody up until Ocon. So in between Hamilton and Verstappen was Lando Norris, Fernando Alonso, and Esteban Ocon. When Verstappen pitted, Leclerc and Vettel stayed out on track and unlapped themselves from Verstappen, so there were now 5 cars in between them. So Lewis is probably thinking, okay, even if they do resume racing like this, with him on these fresher tyres, I've still got the margin. He's still got to make his way through that field of competitors. He's going to start that lap at least 3 seconds behind me, and I will have enough to make sure that I bring this home. So I guess Lewis Hamilton is not protesting still at this stage, because he's still confident that even if they do restart like this, they've broken the rules, but even if they do, he is still okay.
And just be mindful that there's still that extinguishment down exit turn 14.
Again, Bono could easily be saying, look, the track is still got debris and it's still got extinguisher there. In fact, there's still marshals on the track, because there are still marshals on the track. He could be calling this out with what he's saying over the radio that gets broadcast to us all. See if F1 TV ping that out to broadcast to the world. Because they don't show us the live pictures of the clear-up operation, do they? No, it's replay, it's Kelly Piquet in the pits, it's the drama. Oh, and lapped cars will not be allowed to overtake. Oh, typical decision. I'm not surprised. It's classic. It's how hard done by Red Bull are. Oh, well, let me look at this objectively, says Crofty. What do Red Bull want? Do Red Bull want the chance or not? Because I think the race director is making a compromise, and that's the best chance for Red Bull if they want it. Now, thanks for that, Crofty. See how slow that car's having to go. How slow Hamilton is having to travel. Okay, going around turn 14. Marshall's on the track. 3 Marshals jumping over the barrier. Go and check out the Max Verstappen analysis if you want to have further proof of that.
There's still lower debris down there.
And there you go. Lap 56. Lap 56. And Marshals are jumping over the barrier now. Still a broom on the track, as evidenced in that Max Verstappen analysis. And Lewis Hamilton is completing lap 56, meaning the earliest that track is going to be declared safe is going to be lap 57. That's the earliest that the lapped cars can be released on, and the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap.
And copy that, Lewis.
And copy that, Lewis. What are we copying, Bono? Yeah, and we're going past the pits now, and the safety car is still on track, isn't it? Which means that, if we apply the regulations and we do what we have to do, this is a safety car finish. And even if they do bring in the safety car, well, firstly, the track needs to be declared safe this lap. And then if they bring the safety car in, well, you'll have a lap with 5 cars in between you and Max. And that's a break of the regulations anyway. That's a contrivance. That is fraud.
So yeah, just keep working those tyres.
We're on lap 57 of 58. There's not going to be any racing if the regulations are applied, is there? So Bono, what are you doing? You're still playing into this notion of the race resuming come what may, indicating you are complicit with the rules of the sport being broken to facilitate a racing lap at the end. That makes you, Mercedes, you, Bono, complicit with the fraud. This is the discussion held by all the teams and the competitors and Martin Brundle, knowing an awful lot about the things surrounding Abu Dhabi, and it's super uncomfortable for Martin Brundle. Meetings that took place between all the teams because they're all complicit. All the drivers were clearly aware because they weren't calling it out properly. All of the officials, the FIA, and all of the media being willing to talk about this sport to the global audience, knowing that the rules are going to be broken come what may, to facilitate the exciting ending for everybody. Give the whole watching audience a happy ending. Oh, bring the audience to climax, everybody. As long as you bring the audience to climax, you make the money. The media's done its job in making the money. Make the show the money. Zero integrity. Fraud.
So they are currently... So it'll be 1 when you cross the line. There are 5 back markers between you and P2.
So, we're on lap 57. Even if they're going to manufacture this bullshit last lap, which they're not allowed to do, then there's going to be 5 cars between Lewis and Max. And Lewis knows that when the safety car peels in and Lewis can dictate when he bolts to start that race off again, which they can't overtake till they cross the start-finish line. So Max Verstappen, even in this bullshit scenario, can only pass those lapped cars once he's crossed the start-finish line. Lewis Hamilton will be long gone, because although there's half a second between each of those cars when they're in that safety car snake, as soon as Hamilton goes, the reaction times are going to increase that gap between each of them competitors to close to a second between each car. When Hamilton crosses the line, Verstappen's the 7th car back. Hamilton's the first car. There's then 5 cars, and Hamilton's car 7 in that whole line of cars. He's going to be 3 or 4 seconds behind with 1 lap to go. It's not happening. Doesn't matter what tyres you're on. It's not happening.
So Norris is the car behind. He has 7-lap-old medium tyres.
Again, not that that's important. Norris should not be competing with you. He might try and unlap himself, but he's got these 7-lap-old medium hard tyres. Go back and listen to the Max Verstappen audio. Does Max Verstappen's race engineer inform Max of the condition of the cars around him and what he might be up against on the restart? You'll get the answer to that in that video.
So he's now going to let the cars through.
So he's now going to let the cars through. So if you're letting the cars through, you're carrying out the regulation, aren't you? You're releasing the lap cars, all 8 of them. And then once the last lap car has passed the leader, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. We're on lap 57. Safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap, which means at the end of lap 58. It's a safety car finish.
So he's going to let 4 cars through.
Bono, what are you talking about? You don't just say he's going to let 4 cars through. It's 5 anyway, so you got that wrong. But you're like, what's going on here? You're not allowed to do that. They've all got to go through. You can't just let 4. All you've done is remove the cars out of the way of Max Verstappen so that he can get on the back of Lewis. You can't just do that. Why is not the other cars? Well, this isn't okay. Once you release these, the safety car has to remain on track for a further lap. It's a safety car finish. Why are you just taking out of the way these 5 cars? You can't do it. What are you setting up?
And safety car in this lap.
And you can't do that. Once the last lapped car has passed the leaders, the safety car will return to the pits at the end of the following lap. And Bono here doesn't say it, does he? He just narrates it.
So he's going to let 4 cars through. And safety car in this lap. Safety car.
At the end of the race, Bono tells us that he's speechless. Well, you had your chance, Bono. Had your chance to call out that something's not right here. And you don't. you just smoothly go, oh, and he's going to let 4 cars through, which was 5, and safety car in. It's not allowed to happen. Why are you not calling it out, Bono? Why are you not calling it out? Because you're complicit with the fraud. You're complicit with fucking over Lewis Hamilton, because that is what is going to take place now. You are complicit with it. You're supposed to be his friend, his race engineer. You're supposed to have his back, and this is what you are. You filthy scum.
In this lap. So just prepare your tyres. It will be strap 5 and you'll have overtake on each of the straights. 1 lap to remain. Just prepare your tyres. And safety car in this lap.
Well, the safety car, let me just, I'm just going to give you a bit of a teaser into the next video, which probably be the next video. If it's not the next one, it'll be one shortly after that, just to check the regulation. And if we go through to 48.13, this is one that Red Bull disputed. When the clerk of the course decides it's safe to call in the safety car, the message safety car in this lap will be sent to all competitors via the official messaging system, and the car's orange lights will be extinguished. Okay, so we get this message here, one of the regulations.
Safety car in this lap.
So that's when it's declared the message has been given out, the safety car is coming in this lap. Look at Norris here. Norris is at turn 14. I'm going to show you where the yellow lights are around the circuit as Norris proceeds around onto the next lap, and the message safety car in has already been given. That's a breach of the regulations, and we'll see if the FIA report that in their report into Abu Dhabi after the event that took them till the March to be able to tell us.
So just prepare your tyres.
So just prepare your tyres. You're getting fucked, Lewis. And that's the best advice you can give, is it?
So just prepare your tyres. It will be strap 5 and you'll have overtake on each of the straights. 1.
You think that is the way to articulate to the world that a contrivance is now taking place and Lewis Hamilton is getting screwed over by a contrivance within this sport. A fraud that is unfolding in front of our very eyes.
Lap to remain. Safety car at turn 15 now.
been manipulated, man.
Yes, it has, Lewis. Yes, it absolutely has.
Yes, it's been manipulated, man.
Yep. Martin Brundle will tell you that Red Bull played some clever cards. Red Bull had nothing to lose. No, it's entire contrivance. They got complicit agreement between all of the teams to this notion of a racing finish come what may. All of the teams nodded their head in agreement. They were told by somebody like Martin Brundle or Michael Massey, or it might have even been Greg Maffei, the head of Liberty Media, or, you know, whatever, the fake head. It's ultimately owned by JC Malone. That the show is going to gain so much more money by having a massive audience now tuning in to the season finale. You know, there's lots of people from around the world that have never watched Formula One before, but because it's going down to the last race of the season, and because we're now going to give this show away for free so people can see it on terrestrial television, we're going to get a massive audience of people tuning in to see what all the fuss is about. And if it ends behind a safety car, it'll be a bit boring for people and people won't understand. So we need to make sure people are excited, because if people are excited, they'll tune in again. And if they tune in again, we get a much bigger audience. And when we get a much bigger audience, then we can charge our sponsorship money out for an advertising space on our car for more money, because that brand gets seen by more people. So that's more valuable. So we charge more money and we all make more money. Cha-ching! Each of the media companies make more money. Cha-ching! More money for everybody. The prize pot gets bigger. Cha-ching! FIA, their stake gets bigger. Cha-ching! Money, money, money. So let's make it exciting. Let's arouse the children. Let's bring everybody to climax with the finale. And all the teams go, yeah, yeah, money, 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 yeah. And Red Bull then go away and play their clever cards. Right, we're going to have this come what may. So if there happens to be a situation where we need a miracle, where we need to be able to catch 12 seconds in, and we're not going to do it, the only way we're going to do it is with a late safety car. Oh, wow, this safety car's not working the way we hoped. That car's caught fire. Oh, shit. What are we going to do now? Well, we did agree to be a racing finish come what may. Now with these rat-lapped cars in situ. Oh, but now Max won't win it. We'll get them out of the way as well. You couldn't make it up, could you? Well, they did. And the whole thing was a fraud. And everybody went along with the fucking of Lewis Hamilton.
No, I'm just speechless, Lewis. Absolutely speechless.
Yeah, of course you fucking were. Of course you were. You did nothing to protect your man whilst that was unfolding. You did everything to comply with the narrative. And you just stood there and watch it all happen to him. That's the mark of who you are, Bono. When we all reach our end, that's what you've got to look back at what you did in your life. That's what you did.
In strap mode 1. And we're supposed to be going to the grid, Lewis.
Really? Yeah. Yeah, let's play by their rules, shall we? Yeah. Let's put on the facade, shall we? Speechless, are you, Bono? Speechless. Your man. Your mate. Your so-called mate, Bono. He's just been fucked over of a record-breaking achievement. Fucked over from surpassing that sporting record of being the outright owner of the most world championships in the history of this sport. And that entire contrivance has just been set up against him. And the best you can tell him is, oh, you're supposed to be going to the grid. You can't say now on a broadcast that people can tune into, but you know that this footage exists, and so what you say gets heard by people. They've broken the rules of the sport there to set that up. That's not allowed to happen. We'll be protesting this, and we'll ensure that this is recounted. Because Mercedes did appeal, and they appealed validly, because that's not allowed to happen. The protest was dismissed. No media has reported why that protest was dismissed. They've just said, oh yeah, the stewards have determined that they agree with Red Bull. No media has said that Red Bull shouldn't have even been there. No media has even examined what are the credentials for those 4 stewards, even being able to adjudicate on whether they're on the validity of that appeal. No media has even looked into the fact that Mercedes is sending in a so-called barrister to appeal to fucking Derek Warwick. I'll send a barrister in to appeal to Derek Warwick. Oh, because what? Because Derek Warwick's a judge, is he? So that's an entire facade, isn't it? It's an entire facade. But Bono here, Bono doesn't say anything, does he? I had to keep doing that because when I've tried to play this through and upload it before of just that footage of Lewis Hamilton sat in the car afterwards just gets blocked on copyright. So I've had to just show you occasionally what's going on, but then get it out of screen. Okay, that's where I stopped it. Now, I know from the type of people that come to the channel to comment, there will be a proportion that will take delight in seeing that image of Lewis Hamilton being fucked over. But that's a mark of who you are. You know, you take delight in seeing what appears to me to be a decent man being fucked over in this world. And you like that. And to you, I will say, fuck you. Fuck you. That's a mark of who you are. You are part of the problem in this world. Because decent people respect decent human beings. And for whatever reasons you choose not to like Lewis Hamilton, well, you have to answer to yourself for that. I have reasons why I don't respect Max Verstappen. The display of his conduct is enough for that. The way that he's put forward as being a great of a sport where he doesn't contest that sport in a fair manner, that's a problem. And then his personal characteristics are a problem. His conduct is a problem. The example he sets to youngsters in this world is a problem. I don't get that from Lewis Hamilton. Sets a good example. So whether you like the fact that you don't like the clothes he wears, you don't like the colour of his skin, you don't like that he campaigns for equality in this world, you've got a problem, have you? Well, yeah, you do have a problem. You have a big problem. And you are the problem. So you're going to get called out from it. This is not the channel for you if you don't like being called for what you are. But you'll continue to come here and you'll continue to comment. But the sport of Formula One, it knows all about you. It knows what haters you are. It recruits you. It wants you to jump up in the comment section. It wants the war between people, because while people are fighting, they're making money. While people are fighting each other, people's attention are on each other, being told each other are the enemy, not those that are in control of the narrative, not those that are perpetrating the crime at the top, that are making the billions and that are conditioning the minds of us all with their bought media to tell us, oh, it's this way. You keep looking at them, they're your problem. Look at the immigrants, they're your problem. Look at the blacks, they're your problem. Look at the LBGQT community, whatever it is, they're your problem. No, that's not our problem. It's those that are making billions and fucking up our lives, increasing the cost of our lives for their wealth, that are the problem. But they won't let the media tell us about that. The media is only allowed to tell us what they let the media tell us. This was a contrivance. The whole example in the sport of Formula One extrapolates to every other aspect of our lives, where our lives are being controlled by these fuckers at the very top, in control of the narrative through the media matrix, and they're making billions, and it impacts all of us. So strap on, fanboys, wake up. It's more than your beloved strap on. It's far bigger than Lewis Hamilton. I just don't like seeing a man getting fucked over like that. It will never be okay. And I'll continue to fight until things are righted, until people realise the true dynamics of this, that will wake them up to the true dynamics of what's really impacting all of our lives. Thank you for your time.